Okay, in this video we're gonna go ahead and remove the needle bearing located in the driver's side, and we're gonna replace it with the bushing to eliminate possible vibration coming down from the CV axle. Here we go, let's get started. Okay, the first knot that we're gonna go ahead and remove is the sway bar link knot. Now I'm using my bar to pry down on that sway bar because it has plenty of tension. The next knot that I'm gonna go ahead and remove is to the tie rod end, and to remove this I first have to remove the safety pin, as you can see in the video. Once I remove the safety pin, I'm gonna go ahead and take my hammer and hammer right where you guys saw the little red circle. But before I do that, I put my knot back to protect the thread of the tie rod end bolt. There it is. Now it is loose, so I can go ahead and remove the knot. Now we're gonna go ahead and proceed to remove this cover, which is covering the knot to the CV axle. Now let's go ahead and put our knots back to the sway bar link and to the tie rod end to prevent losing those. Next step is to remove the safety pin from the CV axle knot. And now we're gonna go ahead and remove the knot using the 36mm socket. Now we're going to go ahead and go to the bottom of the spindle to remove the last two bolts that are holding this spindle or unit together, giving us access to remove finally the CV axle. Okay, now the CV axle is loose, and we can go ahead and look at the back that I have finally removed the CV axle. But now we're gonna go ahead and place a strap, or you can place any string or rope to hold your CV axle up, so that you can now use a bar to remove the CV axle from the back where it enters into your transfer case. As you can see in the video, I have loosened it. Now I am gonna go ahead and remove it. Now placing this strap made it a lot easier for me to work by myself and remove this CV axle. Now this picture right here is of that tool that you need to remove the needle bearing. Here is another picture of another company or a different tool, but it's specific for this job. However, I don't have this tool on hand, so I'm gonna go ahead and create my own tool using the following items that you can see here. And these items is a bolt, a nut, and a washer. Now what I did is I welded the washer and the nut together. Now here, this is the exact nut that I use for my tool. This made it a lot easier to weld the nut and the washer together. Here in a second I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I welded these two together and kind of trims that I made to the washer so that I could fit the washer and nut into the transfer case and finally pull the needle bearing out. Now this tool that you see here is the final product of what I made. I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I made that tool. Okay, and here is the product. I made some cuts and adjustments to the washer as well as to the nut so that it could properly fit inside of the transfer case, and then I could put my bolt inside and screw it into that nut. Now I was not able to show exactly how I put it in there, but however I had to continuously pull the nut and washer out and make adjustments until I was able to properly fit it inside so that I could put the bolt and begin to pull the needle bearing out. One thing I do want to mention is that before you pull the needle bearing out, you should put a small bag, a plastic bag inside of the transfer case, inside of that hole, so that you can prevent any debris or any bearings from, or any of the needles from going inside of the transfer case, or any piece of metal from going inside, because that can potentially damage your transfer case in the future. That little bag, you just put it inside, and I'm going to show you in a minute how it looks, and that will save you from future headaches. Okay, and now that needle bearing is out, so we're gonna go ahead and pull it out, and I will show you now. Here in this arrow is pointing at the little bag that I put inside, but I'm gonna go ahead and move that camera so that you can better look at that bag inside, and it is inside right there, pointing with my finger. You just push it way in there and it will not go farther, it will stop at a certain point. And here is the tool with the bearing, as you can see. Okay, and now I'm gonna go ahead and remove this nut so that I can show you how much I trimmed it and how it looks. Here you go, there it is. It's kind of thin and I did a lot of trimming to it, but finally I was able to make it work. And here is the needle bearing. I'm gonna go ahead and show you how it looks and the bearings inside. And this is the rest of the tool that I used. I used another nut, a wider nut, and then a few more washers to make it all work together. Now this is the new bushing that I'm using. This bushing I got from Amazon and it did the job, it works perfect. Now the bushing compared to the needle bearing is a little bit longer. Here's a perfect example of how they look side to side. It is a little bit thicker, it seems like, and it's because the needle bearings are thin inside of the original OEM bearing. You can see inside how the small needles are kind of broken in, and they're kind of falling inside, and that is what causes the vibration in the future. Now here I am gonna go ahead and use a socket that's the same size as the bushing so that I can put the new bushing back inside. And as you can see, I hammered it in and I used my fingers to guide myself I took little breaks and I kept feeling around the bushing to make sure that it was going in straight. Now you can see that with my needle pliers, I'm gonna go ahead and pull out that bag that I told you I put inside. Make sure you don't forget to pull that out. Alright, now that we've done all that, we're gonna go ahead and proceed to put back our CV axle and then the spindle back in the shaft of the CV axle. Now here you're gonna see that I begin to put all the bolts back inside, back in place, and all the nuts. However, I don't tighten none of them until I have put them all back in place. Reason being is because I don't want the rest of the nuts or the bolts to become difficult to put back in place. So I just simply put them back in. Alright, and now I'm using my jack's handle to press down on the tension of the sway bar so that I can insert the link back in place because there's a lot of tension in this bar. Now simply I just put the nut back in place, and I'm gonna go ahead and proceed to do the rest of the nuts before I tighten everything. Alright, and now I'm gonna go ahead and use my bar so that I can make sure that that nut is tightened. Now, to install these back in place, I used a rubber mallet. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and lower my truck slightly just to prevent the wheel from spinning when I go ahead and tighten the lug nuts.
Temprano aprenderán.